I like the idea of one either fasting out of the gate if it's really a bad infection and there's really a lot of nausea. You could also do things like bone broth are wonderful, just where you get a lot of nutrition, but it's pre-digested, so there's not much digestion that has to happen to grab that glycine or grab those fatty acids because it's pretty well digested. So some kind of a bone broth is wonderful. Some type of a ginger tea is great. Some type of collagen amino acids is great. I think all those are, really good strategies out of the gates just to kind of help provide nutrition, but not put a lot of stress on your tummy to be able to digest it and access it. Because when the gut's really inflamed, it can be stressful absorbing those nutrients.
Yeah, good point. She was complaining of stomach pain too. So as soon as her tummy settles down, I think she can handle liquid. What we're going to do, we've got a couple different formulas. I know you and I, we manufacture some, but there's also some other good professional competitor brands. There's one from Innate Response that I like. It's a GI like soothing formula that's got like some raspberry flavor into it. It's got glutamine, some larch tree extract. I believe it's got some mucin, chamomile, aloe, those type of blends. So kind of a leaky gut permeability support. Those are good in these situations too. When the gut's irritated, like you said, you don't know what it's from, right? It could be bacteria, virus, parasite, whatever it is. To me, honestly, at this point, it doesn't matter. I'm just in the acute phase of trying to calm her tummy down. So if I can get her to do over the period of today, a couple grams of glutamine with some of these aloe extracts, that's going to calm the gut down too. You and I've seen that clinically beneficial in like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, any of these diverticulitis, any type of these gut flare-ups or autoimmune gut flares. We'll use some of these leaky gut remedies. So I would then use that as a crossover, right? I would use it in the same situation.
Yeah, exactly. Now, out of the gates, when we deal with a lot of these situations, we always want to understand root cause. Now, the nice thing about acute traumatic situations like in your situation here is the root cause usually is a one-off, right? It's going to be a food poisoning episode. It becomes more of an issue if it's an acute parasite and it lingers, but most of the time it's a one-off. And as long as someone's diet's reasonable and they have decent health, you don't really have to go super upstream and look at all of the underlying systems. You can kind of just do triage with natural medicine, which is kind of cool. Come in there with some of the different nutrients and the herbs that we talked about, support some of the lymphatic system with ginger or burdock root, right? Slippery elm's wonderful for the lymphs, wonderful for calming the gut lining. L-glutamine's also wonderful for calming. Aloe's also wonderful for gut lining. So there's a lot of great things that we can do to calm the gut lining, support barrier integrity, get the inflammation under control. We don't really have to worry about, getting the root, because usually that root's an isolated situation, especially if someone's relatively healthy and then they have an acute episode.
Right. And then your system's going to get back to baseline on its own. We're just kind of helping it. So it, like you said, it might not need much more attention than just a couple of days, which would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's pretty cool out of the gates. So we talk about diarrhea. A couple of things we can do with diarrhea is a lot of times you have to understand why the body is doing what it's doing. So the body is usually getting exposed to some kind of bacteria, parasite, some type of toxin that is very irritating on the gut lining. And the body is thinking, how can we dilute whatever that compound is, and flush it out of the body as fast as possible? So what the body's typically doing is saying, okay, let's bring a whole bunch of fluid and water into this system here, and let's flush it out. Let's increase motility time. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to screw up your electrolytes a lot of times. It's going to screw up your hydration status, and it's also going to make it hard to absorb nutrients. So what's the first thing we do? So the first thing is we can put some binders in so we can bind up those toxins so they're less irritating, less inflammatory. So our different binders could be activated charcoal, bentonite clay, different zeolites, different pectins. These fibers are great because they'll bind up that toxin and it'll make it less mobile, less inflammatory. It kind of puts straitjackets or handcuffs on it, right? And the next thing we're going to do is make sure we are hydrating, because the solution to pollution is dilution. So we want to make sure there is enough water there so we can dilute and not get dehydrated. And then the next thing is make sure there's enough electrolytes. Electrolytes are a big deal, because if we are low in sodium and potassium and magnesium, when you start having a lot of these bugs, what you start to notice is you may start getting dizzy or have vertigo or heart palpitations or just feel totally off. And a lot of that can be from a lot of the electrolyte issues due to the infection. And so if we get the electrolytes right, the hydration right, and then we also provide some good binders in there, that can prevent these toxins, one, from being as mobile and being as inflammatory and that can make a better environment for the body to move the bowels out slower without losing all the nutrients as well.
Yeah, good point.